When tog fishing, I predominantly turn to rigs to catch my fish. But in my pursuit of learning how to fish with lighter gear, in this video, I'll be using the ever popular Tog Jig. Let's get to it. Today we're up here at Barnegat Inlet and we're going to try to get in on some tog. I'm really excited that tog season's back. It's one of my favorite types of fishing. And today we're going to be using some light tackle and I'm going to be practicing with some of these tog jigs. Something I'm not really proficient in, but something I want to get better at. So let's give it a shot. I'll meet you out there by the rocks. Got a bunch of tog candy right here. We got these sand fleas that we're gonna be using today. This is gonna get us on some fish. So today we are using this Magic Tail jank here, and this is a 1/2 ounce. It should be enough to hold, especially when using light tackle. You wanna go as light as possible, as light as you can get away with. So once again, this jig, if this is the bottom, it's gonna sit on the bottom like this, and the tog are gonna bite from above. You're gonna feel a bunch of taps, 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 but you're waiting for them to pick up the jig, swim away with it, and then you'll set the hook. So we're gonna give this a shot. Let's get out there and get fishing. To reiterate with some underwater footage, that jig has a semi-flat underside, which allows it to sit on the bottom or on some rocks with the hook pointed up for the tog to bite on. So once again, we got a light rod set up here. We're going with a moderate fast action rod. It's 7 feet, and we got this 3000 size reel. Basically exactly my same setup I used for fluke. Then we've got 30-pound leader line, and we've got 20-pound braid. So if you look underneath this little flap right here, sand flea has all this orange stuff. That's the good stuff. That's what's gonna attract the fish. So we're gonna string it on the hook, just like this. And it's gonna sit like that on the bottom and hopefully catch some tog. So right in front of me, there is a pocket of deep water right here, and there's a rock right next to it. So hopefully there's some tog sitting around it. We're just gonna drop this right in there. And hope we can land some fish. So once it's on the bottom, you do wanna leave a little slack in your line, but not too much. Just might help you with that bite a little better. There we go. All right. First small one in the morning. From what I've heard, it's been a lot like fluke fishing recently with a lot of shorts, not a lot of keepers. But who knows what we'll get today. That first one was pretty tiny, but it did, with the light tackle, feel super sensitive. So it was pretty easy to detect the bite. And not only that, it's a fun fight when you're fighting on light tackle. These fish are masters of stealing your bait. You are gonna go through a lot, so make sure you've got plenty with you. As you can see by how many times I go back and forth between the water and the bait bucket, the fish were stealing my bait left and right. With this type of jig fishing, you're not going to be constantly jigging it up and down like you would some other types of fishing. You want to find the bottom, a rock or the actual bottom itself, and just let it sit. You don't need to be going up and down. The fish will find it. And if you're not getting bites, you might not be on the bottom. So pick it up, drop it down, and then you'll start getting those bites again. Woo! That's a good fish. There we go. It's a better tog. Alrighty, that was definitely a better tog than the first one. And on light tackle, those things they fight hard, man. They feel a lot bigger than they actually are. But I took it off the hook and I dropped it, so I didn't get a chance to show you what the fish actually looked like. So we got to get another one on the board then. It's pretty easy to overestimate how much weight you actually need to hold the bottom, especially if you're using lighter line and the water kind of cuts right through it. You don't really need much. This 1/2 ounce is holding pretty well. And I figured that after all these storms, the inlet would be ripping and I would need a lot more weight, but this is doing pretty well. There we go. All right, here we go. These fish have just been tearing through my sand fleas. but we're landing them bit by bit. So let's keep fishing. See you, buddy. Ooh, snagged them. Whoops. Sorry, dude. Oh, another snag. Woo! Wow. We're definitely starting to build the bite. The fish are progressively getting a little bigger. Hopefully that's a good sign. I want to point out the line here. Keeping some slack in it kind of helps detect that bite. You can tell you've got a fish if the line really straightens out or starts moving along in the water. There we go. It's really important that, especially with light tackle, to lift your rod as high up as possible. Try to get those fish out of the rocks because they're going to swim right down into it. Another fish on the board. I would say as I'm learning more and more with these jigs, it's definitely hard figuring out when to set the hook, so it does take some practice, much like anything else with fishing. Mostly fish all around this. Well, back in the water now, but mostly fish all around that same size. Hopefully they keep getting bigger. That's the hope. A keeper would be nice, but can't hope for too much. There we go. All right. Once again, similar size, but we're getting on fish. We're getting on fish. Here we are. It's another tog. Cool colors on this guy. Let's get him back. Even though we're not getting any monsters, I'm having a ton of fun using this light tackle. It's like every fight, no matter the size of the fish, is just really good, really fun. And these fish in general just fight really hard. That's why I love tog fishing. So one thing about fishing rocks in general is that it is not kind to your gear. The paint is starting to chip off these jigs, but it's really not that big of a deal. The color doesn't exactly matter that much. The tog just really go for the bait, whatever you have on there. So if you're in the store and you're looking for what color should I get, just pick whichever one they have, honestly. And another thing too is that your leader line is going to get chewed up from the rocks. So, you know, check it. You don't have to switch it every time you catch a fish or every few fish, but if it's really in bad shape, switch it out. You don't want to break off on a good fish. All right, here we go. Here's one of the better ones from today, which isn't really saying much considering it's, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 inches tops. But yeah, it's still a fun fight. We're having fun. Let's get him back. The thing about that last fish too is that bite felt textbook. It was, I felt tap, tap, and then the pull was really strong, and that's when I set the hook. So that's what we're going for, you know, that's kind of the technique. And as I fish longer and longer, I'm starting to pick up on it, and it is really fun, man. You got to give this a shot. If you're out here using really heavy gear, try light tackle. Shake it up, you know, learn something new. Always helps to try a new technique. Ooh, this feels like a good one. Yeah, it's a pretty good fish. And he's snagged through the head too. Jeez, sorry dude. We're getting closer to keeper size. The wind actually changed to south. We kind of had a little bit of a west wind earlier, and the water's starting to move a lot more too. So hopefully the water moving picks up the bite a little more, gets these fish stirred up. Look at these chompers. Finally. That's a pretty good one, is it? Oh no, he's under the rock. Oh, there we go. Man, just look how clear this water is. All right, that's a pretty good fish, actually. Cast it out a little farther than we have been. Seems to have provided. Okay, 12 and a half right there. Back in. Feels like another good one. Oh, man. I think it's just getting them over those rocks is kind of tough. Okay, that's probably another 13 and a half, maybe 14 incher. But casting farther out seems to be the way to get some of these bigger fish. So we're gonna keep giving that a shot. This might be our first break off of the day. We've managed to make it this far without losing a jig. So this will be the first one. Okay, that's another pretty good fish right there. It was just fish after fish after fish, all clocking in at around the 10-inch to 13-inch range. As I started to run low on bait, I made my way over to the lighthouse to finish out what I had left. What I love about August is that the inshore ocean really comes alive. There's bait everywhere and it's teeming with life. Just a really cool sight to see. A little rescue mission. I caught a few more tog and some small sea bass and eventually ran out of bait, which was my cue to call it a day. Well, you can't win them all, no keepers today, but we did catch a lot of fish and I did have a lot of fun. At a certain point, I kind of actually stopped recording because we were catching a lot of the same, like 12 to 13-inch tog, so it got kind of repetitive, but yeah, it was a nice day overall. We practiced a new technique, which is super important, and now I'm going to take you to some takeaways from today's video. Here are 5 takeaways from my session with the Tog Jig. 1. Light line cuts through the current and keeps the jig still, allowing you to go lighter than you'd expect with the jig weight. 2. Find bottom and let the jig sit. You don't need to constantly jig up and down. 3. Give a little bow to your line to detect bites. Watch how it moves to determine if a fish is on. A straightened, moving line means there's probably a fish on the other end. 4. Wait through the taps for the pull when the tog are swimming away with the jig, and then set the hook. And 5. Set the hook hard and raise the rod as high up as you can to get the fish out of the rocks. So I hope you learned something new from this video. I definitely got some good practice in using these tog jigs, and I can't wait to use it some more. We've got a long tog season ahead of us. Hopefully some keepers are in our future. And thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.